Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Real Talk with Rayne. I'm here today with Gabe.
Hello, I'm Gabe.
Gabe is an amazing person, and I'm very excited that he is joining me on the podcast.
Oh my god.
But today is the topic of real life versus virtual life, and that could mean anything in regards to friendships, relationships, anything of the sort, really. So, Gabe, do you have any topics you would like to cover first that are on your mind?
I guess from my personal experience with that is the idea of online persona versus how you are in the real world. I'm someone who has a lot of social anxiety to the point where I can't even go to conventions in person because I have a really bad time in really big crowds. So when other people are like, "Oh, I feel so much better talking in groups and discords online," I'm like, I wish that was me. I don't understand personally the how people can feel less pressure and with online personas. Because if anything, I feel better in the real world talking to people face to face because I can see their expressions. I know that when I text something, they'll probably misconstrue it, but if I say it to their face, it's like they're not going to do that. I don't know.
No, I get what you mean. I think it's easier to talk to people in person because one, you might know that person better. Like, I always am kind of the thought that you never really know somebody until you've spent time with them in person. Like, you can have internet friends and virtual friends that you've talked to for like ages. And of course, there's a strong connection there, but it's different when it's in person because you really see the person's habits and how they actually act, not behind a screen. And so, in a way, I feel like people feel more comfortable behind the screen too because they can be their authentic self, whether that's good or bad.
That's very true. Because as you know this, but whoever's listening definitely doesn't. I am a trans man. I've been identifying as a trans man since I was 17, but I didn't start transitioning until I was around 2021. But online, I was using he, him pronouns. I was being addressed as boy, guy, man. And that really it helped me a lot in figuring out if I was a trans man because it was just reassuring me that yeah, this I do feel gender euphoria when I am being seen as a man or being addressed as he and him. So I think there is an upside to having the anonymity and not anon I'm not going to say the word. Having that kind of I love words.
Like a shield almost?
Yeah, having that kind of shield of no one knows who you are
Mhm.
actually. Because if you were to see me at 17, on the streets, you would have been like, "Oh, that's a teenage girl. She got tits, she got curves." I did have them; they're gone now, which is great for me.
Okay.
But it's like it. If anything, it made me feel like solidified in my identity, which I feel like is the upside to having an online persona where you can actually be more yourself when you're not even sure of who you are yet. It's almost like you're able to try out things without feeling any kind of permanentness to it. Like I tried out a whole bunch of different preferred names
Mhm.
as online names as well, whereas Lynn was one of them, and I was like, "No, not that one." Uh,
I don't vibe with that name.
no,
You're like,
no,
"Not for
no.
me."
Yeah.
Alright, that makes a lot of sense, and I feel like it's good and for those reasons, right? For reasons
Mhm.
people trying to figure out who they are, what feels right to them. Safety reasons is definitely a good thing as well, not divulging your personal information on the internet and things like that. But I also feel like the internet in itself has become so dangerous that even when people try to hide who they are, other people will then make it their life's mission to figure it out, and
Yeah.
it's not your business.
It's not.
It's not your business. If somebody wants to be behind an avatar, that's fine, but unless I just don't understand. I think my biggest thing with real life and virtual life is that I've had friends for 14 years now. I'm 33. My oldest friend is a friend of almost, God, math. Yeah, about 14, 15 years. And we met on the internet. We met we were both really into anime because we're nerds.
Yeah.
And I met them through a website that did like role playing and like making stories and stuff like that with OCs. And I didn't really know what that was until my friend in high school introduced me to it. And then I started chatting with people and I met this you've heard on the podcast before. And we just got super close. Like we talked every single day. And I definitely think that there was a real friendship there. When he came to visit, though, in person, it was solidified. Like, it was
Yeah.
definitely that moment where you're like, you're going to meet this person in person, and it can all change in the blink of an eye. Like, this person could not be who they say they are. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always say video chat with people that you're friends with so that you know that you're talking to the actual person.
Oh,
um,
yeah, absolutely.
but I don't want to discount friendships that can only be over the internet because obviously sometimes that's the only way that people have means to connect to other
Mhm.
people, which is how I was for the longest time. I didn't have a lot of friends in real life. I was actually bullied in school quite a lot. So I just didn't really vibe with a lot of people. And it just being a people pleaser in high school, oh, I was stepped all over. It's hard to know who you are when the people that are around you don't match the energy that you give out and don't
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah, they don't have the same kind of morals or growth or ideas that you share. And so that was a nice way for me to connect with other people that loved to write and that loved anime and just combining the two. And then that's how I actually met my other friend that both Stuart and Draco were bridesmen in my wedding. Draco was my man of honor. And I met them both through storytelling and creating stories through OCs, but they were both on the internet.
Yeah.
And those relationships went from the internet to like the phone, and they went to like voice calls and video calls. And it's still, I would say, it was just as personal as an in person
Yeah.
relationship, but it's missing that aspect of almost the little things of seeing this person's like quirks when you're around them in
Yeah.
person and seeing if they really act the same way in person that they do online. Because online, you can put your best face forward in front of anybody, and then in person, people meet you and they're like, I expected you to be completely different.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a double edged sword, I feel like, with people, the internet being so big now. And it's scary because it's almost like raising the next generation. So we aren't going outside and playing anymore with an imagination. Like people aren't, they're so glued to their phones and they're so glued to technology and TV. And starting in the 90s, which was when I was born, TV was like the big thing, right? So
Yeah.
we're glued to that TV. And that was bad too for us. But now it's just like everything is online and you can't escape it. Social media
Yeah.
is so scary, and you have kids who are younger and younger joining, even lying about their ages to join social media and then being exposed to these things that are really toxic.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't think that's helpful for their development as people. So,
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's because as you mentioned earlier, there is positive aspects to like meeting people online, especially
yeah,
if you're from like a smaller town and maybe you're the only gay kid. Having a community through the internet and online friends through that is very important. But I definitely agree that sometimes you do need to go out there and either meet these people like in person or just experience the world socially with other people. Like, even if it's just through a video call on Discord, I feel like that's very important because you can still see other people's mannerisms. You can still actually have a conversation with them in real time and get to know them outside of just words on a screen. But I totally get the concern about younger people on social media because I'm sure you were raised on this, and I definitely was. I was born in '98, so I was like one of the first children to be young on the internet. But it was like we would be in classes in our computer labs and be taught, like, don't say your full name, don't
Right.
say your address, don't, meanwhile, these kids nowadays, it's like we're glossing over those important rules of the internet again because now everyone has the internet in their hand or on an iPad and they're just giving them to these kids. And now any person can just ask a kid, "Hey, what's your address?" And they'll tell them
Yeah.
because they don't know the safeties about people online. Because just because they sound nice to you right now does not mean that they have the best intentions for you.
Even with your name, they can still, just the way that the internet has progressed, people can still find things about you. And it's terrifying. Like, I had a friend in high school, and this was my first real experience of having a friend that went through something really scary. But I had a friend who had a pen pal, and she wrote to him all the time, and they exchanged letters to each other. It wasn't even on the internet, it was letters. And she got a letter from him one day saying, I'm not going to go into massive detail, but saying who he was, and he was in prison.
Oh my god.
Mind you, my friend and I were 14 at this time. And he said that when he was getting out, he was gonna come see her because she had been sending him mail,
Yeah,
and now he knew where she lived.
that's insane.
And my friend was like freaking out. She called me, and her parents were freaking out, and they had to move because it was this guy was like, "Oh, I'm gonna come meet you. Like, I'm your boyfriend now." And
Yeah.
it was crazy, it was creepy, it was scary, and I was like, "God, that's for letters." And now the internet it's like letters, but worse. So, it's just the way that people are connecting to each other, it's not as safe.
No.
Not to say that it was safe when letters were a thing, because obviously, based on the story that I just told, that's not necessarily the case. But and I had a friend online once that, same when I was in high school, because this is like when stuff really started happening on the internet in high school for me, middle school, high school age. Before that, it was like we went outside and we played, and I thought I was so cool. Like, I still have the scar to prove this, but I wanted like our children and our next generations to get back to this because this was so much fun. Like, I went to there was a sewer drain, right? And I was like, I'm going to make a bridge. And so I put sticks over the sewer drain outside of my parents' cabin. And I was like, okay, I'm going to put all these sticks together and make a little bridge for myself and then walk over the sewer drain because I'm so cool. And I did that. I fell. I cut my leg open and a rock fell in my leg.
Oh my god.
I wish I was kidding. It was the craziest experience. I just walked in the house. I was wearing white socks, and as I looked down, they were just red with blood. And I walked inside the cabin, and I just casually laid on the couch, and I was like, "Ma," like, "What?" I'm like, "I think I need a Band-Aid." So my mom comes over thinking I just scraped my knee, and she's like, "Oh my god, get off the couch, you wear." But then, literally, it was the crazy experience because the rock kind of got stuck in my leg, and almost my skin, like, formed a almost like a circle around it,
Oh my god.
So it was weird. I still have the scar. It's very small. It wasn't huge by any means, but it's like right on the top of my leg. And like Amanda, my wife, has felt it before and she can feel like it's a hole. It's still a hole in my leg.
Ugh.
Yeah. So it's weird, but I was just playing outside and having a good time. And now it's a story that I can have forever. Like a scar and a story that I can have forever. But the weirdest thing that happened with it is when it was healing, because my dad had put some, oh God, what is it called? Oh, he's gonna kick my booty for not remembering what this is called because he's what the heck? Hydrogen peroxide. Yes. Okay. Putting that like on the actual wound and then it fizzles up and stuff. And as it healed, I was playing with my friend at her house and we were like I don't know what we were doing, but I was like walking around like on my hands and knees on the carpet for something. And I think I was looking for something. And I just all of a sudden, like when I sat back up, I looked down and the rock was gone. And I
Huh.
was like, eh? Just like, what happened? And it wasn't bleeding. It was just a perfect hole in my skin.
Oh my god.
It was so weird. There was no blood, there was no nothing. I just stared at it for 5 minutes, like not sure how this is a thing when it healed with that thin layer of skin over it.
Yeah.
So I think there's still like almost like a hole underneath that, but still it's fully healed.
Yeah, yeah.
But in terms of things like that, I feel like those memories are obviously me getting hurt is like not a great memory to have, but it's still when I think about compared to what the younger generation is dealing with today, being on the internet and being judged by other people or having like mob mindsets for things. And it's just, it makes me sad for the little, like my inner child to see that they're not experiencing those things because they're so sucked into virtual life.
Yeah. And I think it's one of those things where it's not necessarily the children's fault for being
Yeah.
stuck on the internet, especially with part like the whole disappearing of spaces where children can just go and be kids. Like you
Yeah.
can't stay in the park without an adult, but if your parents are at work, you're stuck at home or you're
Right.
stuck wherever because apparently kids can't hang out anywhere anymore without
Right.
being terrible. But no, I agree the whole because of the lack of the spaces for children to go to, they are then stuck on the internet and as a result they are being as you said conditioned to these mob mindsets where the smallest infraction or faux pas
Yeah.
that a person can do will then be blown up out of proportion. Like no one cares if you ship two characters together. Okay? No one cares. You
A lot of
shouldn't
people care, Gabe. Okay.
they shut that they shut it! It's just I got bills to worry about. I'm not gonna
Right.
care if they ship Izuku Midoriya and Uraraka Ochako or whatever. I don't care at all what people do in their free time. I have to work for a
Yeah.
living. I'm not gonna care.
Yeah, I was watching an episode of Dr. Phil with Amanda because she loves Dr. Phil. But it was about Gen Z, and obviously, I don't think all Gen Z is like this, but people generalize it very
Mhm.
much. Millennials are all like this, Gen Z is all like this, and I'm like, no, that's a part of the internet thing is we're all stereotyping and generalizing a group of people.
Yeah.
However, in this case, it was about how a lot of younger generations don't want to work and they don't want to put in the effort. And there was a girl on Dr. Phil, I wish I remember what it was called, what the episode was called, but she had said, I don't need to work a 9 to 5. I'm just going to manifest that I'll be wealthy. And I was like, I love the energy. Don't
Mhm.
get me wrong. I love the energy. That's not how life works.
It not in this economy, huh?
No, I wish with all of my heart that you were right. I 100% wish that I could run for president and be like, you know what? We're going to have a nice stimulus check, a check. So if you're nice to somebody, you get $5,000 a month. That's not going to happen. That's not going to work either. But one can dream.
Yeah.
Like, run the world on kindness. That's what I would love to do. But that's not how it works. And also, it doesn't help you build character. It doesn't help you go through life's struggles and have failures and have moments where you don't do something right and you need to be told that you didn't do something right, especially at a
Yeah.
job. That's how you grow and that's how you take those lessons and better yourself as a person.
Yeah.
It can be in any situation. It doesn't have to be with a job only, but saying I'm just going to manifest that I'm going to make millions of dollars by being an influencer, I'm like, the people that happens to is very rare.
Yeah.
It's not just something that they may have had different connections. They may have had family that were in the business. We don't know. We only know what we see on the internet. We don't know what goes on behind the scenes. They're not going to, usually, people don't open up about how they got to where they are, usually, or they do, but they omit quite a bit of stuff, like who helped them, things like that. But hearing them say, I don't want to work, nobody wants to work.
No one does.
Nobody
Very
wants to work.
rarely. Like I have been blessed to be in a working position where I get to work in an art gallery all day. So as an artist, I'm like, this is the best job in the world. I'm very lucky. Does not pay a lot, but I love my job. So it's not everyone can say that. Not everyone is
Yeah.
in the position of like loving their job. But no, no one wants to work. There are days where I have to go to work and I'm like, I would rather be at home because I don't want to leave the house today.
Right. Yeah, I have my job where I have to drive 2 hours to go to a staff meeting once a month and then drive 2 hours home, which is not as bad as some other people have it. But for me, and like, it's difficult because of like my medical stuff that I deal with, a lot of times that's hard for me to, if I'm not feeling well, to then drive 2 hours to go
Yeah.
somewhere instead of just being home where I have access to what I need if I'm feeling sick.
Yeah.
And so that's really difficult. Even though it's once a month, like, it's still difficult, but it doesn't mean I'm not gonna do it. It
No,
means that
absolutely
I'm
not.
gonna do it. Like, it's part of my job. And the only
Yeah.
reason I wouldn't do it is if I was too sick that day. And then if that were the case, I have accommodations through work that work with me on that.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to go through a lot of really crappy jobs, like I definitely did in human services. There are so many jobs that do not care about you as a person. They only want you to make money for them.
Yeah. That could be in a whole podcast episode of shitty jobs that I work.
Oh my
Like
God,
I
next
have
one. Yes. Next podcast.
next
Absolutely.
podcast. Gabe talks about the terrible service jobs that he worked. Talking about you,
Honestly,
Alamo Draft House.
I could rant about some of the jobs that I've had, but I had a hard time finding jobs where they would actually work with medical disability. A lot of
Yeah.
jobs just want you to be a robot and like you
Mhm.
say you can't do something or oh I got sick or blah blah blah. It's something that I've been dealing with since I was 14. It's not just going to suddenly go away because you hired me. It's not my fault. And so this job that I currently have is the first job that has ever even attempted to understand my situation and to work with me. So they were like, "Oh, we're going to do this and this and you just let us know what's going on and we'll work with you." And I was like, "Oh my god, I'll stay here forever."
No, for real. That's literally how you build, what is it, loyalty in your company
Yeah.
that people love to preach about.
Yeah, there's aspects of it that I'm not happy about, but it's
Yeah.
every single job that you ever have is going to be like something you don't like. The pay isn't enough. The commute sucks. Somebody at work you don't like. You don't have you have a manager you don't like. There's
Hmm.
always something that people will find. And when I was younger, I was so bad about this, like fully just exposing my younger self. But if I had an inconvenience at a job that I worked out of high school, I'd just be like, okay, I'm leaving. Like, just didn't stay because I was like, I don't like this or I don't like this. And that's not, it really caught up to me pretty quickly because I realized that then the money stopped.
Yeah.
Paying for things you want stops. And it's, oh, maybe I need to deal with it and grow up a little bit. Like the job I have right now, it's human services, so they don't pay a lot because it's like a nonprofit. A lot of human
Hmm.
services profit because they work with like health insurances through the state to help people get access to resources. So you would think that the job that I have now would pay more. They want to pay us more. Don't get me wrong. Like my supervisor has gone to bat for us over and over again to try to get us a better salary. But because we're working through the state insurance, it's not always that easy because
Yeah.
they're not willing to pay us unless they see certain numbers and certain statistics. And I'm like, we're showing you that, like, for an example, one of the duties of my job is to meet with people in person to do intake paperwork. So they come in, they say, my child needs help with this. Like an example, they need help with an after school program or a mentorship program. They sign the intake paperwork that allows us to be authorized to talk to their primary care doctor, their school, and an emergency contact. And outside of that, if they have anybody else, like a therapist or something for the kiddo, then they can authorize us to talk to them as well. And then what I do is I put everybody together in the little care team and talk to each of them to make sure that the child's needs are being met and that they're getting supported and getting services to help them grow. So if parents are having trouble with housing or food, we help them apply for benefits that'll help them be more secure. And that's a really rewarding job, especially when it works out for you. When it doesn't work out for you and you can only help so much, it's heartbreaking. Like, it's so hard to not be able to wave the magic wand and solve all of their problems for that family, especially when
Yeah.
they need it. It's gut wrenching sometimes. And that's why the work is so difficult. It's a lot of stress, it's a lot on people who have empathy, and it doesn't pay a lot. But the work that we do is so important that you would think we would get paid a lot more money, but that's not how it works. But I still love my job with all of the good and the frustrating parts of it because
Yeah.
it's job. It allows me to pay for my bills and I sometimes don't have gas money for the week, but it's okay. I'll figure it out. But yeah, it's when I see people say things like that or younger generations saying they don't want to work or they just want to be an influencer, it's not that easy.
It's not, and you have to be incredibly lucky to be an
Right.
influencer,
Yeah.
because all they're seeing is the success, and they're not seeing the luck or the millions of people who have failed, you
God, yeah.
know? Not every YouTuber that you watch that has, like, hundreds of thousands of subscribers is going to be a success story. You can't just put all your eggs in a basket and then hope that it doesn't have holes.
And it's one of those things where I think there's so much not it's like romanticizing the idea of being an influencer where it's like you said, it's very rare. You have to be very lucky. You have to fit a certain like niche that
Yes.
needs to be filled. And even then, I remember like when YouTube was a thing, when it started, and
Mhm.
the influencers were just like people that came on to show how they did their eyeshadow and
Yeah.
talking about little things that they bought at Sephora or something. No, no, no ad, not sponsored. Uh, but and then it turns into one person does really well, it becomes a job, and then people are like, oh, this is possible. Yes, it's possible. And you should believe in yourself and you should follow your dreams. 100.
Mm,
Be realistic about it though.
yes.
If I could just wave the magic wand and manifest, I would be on Broadway right now with no medical issues.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of my stuff holds me back from even pursuing those things because I'm worried that it's going to cause issues for whoever I work for, like, especially an in person job. So, something like
Mhm.
Broadway, while it would be a dream, it would be difficult. Just being realistic. So, I try to find ways around that. I try to find other methods of acting, singing, putting out stories, things like that. And you have to learn to adapt and pivot, and not everything is going to work out the way that you want it to work out.
Yeah, definitely not. Like, it's you have to be passionate, I feel like. You have if you're going to go after if you wanna be a YouTuber, right? If you want to be a YouTuber or an influencer or whatever on the internet, you gotta be super passionate about what you're doing because for a long time, if at all, you're not gonna, nothing's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like, no online artist is going to start posting and get immediately like 100 followers on Twitter or anything like that. You just have to, you're going to be shouting to a void for probably a very long time, if not five people, which is still a lot. Some people are like, oh, I only got 30 views on my YouTube or whatever. And that's 30 whole people. That's a classroom size. Like, that's still a lot of people. Can you imagine 30 people right now in
Mm,
front of you? That's a lot of people. That is talking to a crowd. And even if it's just 14 or 15 people, that's still a crowd. You are now on a soapbox being like, people are seeing you. So those numbers, though they're small in comparison to others, are still very important. But yeah, you should, if you want to do anything creative, you have to have the passion and the drive to just put yourself out there and fully commit, which a lot of people don't realize that they have to do. You have to expose yourself in so many different ways to just be an artist.
even then, there's like a lot of things that you also have to sacrifice in order to
Hmm.
get to be where you want to be. Like, it's not going to be easy. It's never going to be something where you're like, oh, I just did this and it was fine. And I didn't have to, I didn't have to risk anything, or
Yes.
that's not how it works. Like, even the people that, you know, are really big, like music people right now or actors, talk a
Mhm.
lot about what they've had to sacrifice or like what they've had to do in order to get to where they are. And it's sometimes something very uncomfortable. And
Yeah.
is that worth it? Is that something that morally you can do? It's You might get these offers or these moments that are presented to you, but it's always going to come with something else.
Yeah.
So you have to, and I think people learn that over time as well. I don't think they always necessarily just learn it right away. Like, you have to go through trials and you have to go through failures and hard times for you to like really understand.
Yeah, absolutely. I entirely agree with that.
You know, it's rough, it's hard, and I've had my own share of issues and trying to go into the world of being successful, and I hope it still works out one day, but it may not work
Mhm.
out the way I originally thought that it would. It might be different. It might be completely something else that you never expected, but it's still successful.
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah.
and I feel like there's a lot of pressure, especially online, to have success be a number, be like a certain amount of followers or a certain amount of views. But a lot of the time, success can just be the fact that you made something.
Yeah.
You made a post or you made a video or something that you're proud of that people get to see, get to experience, and get to connect with. And I feel like that gets lost sometimes through like the online space because everyone is just consuming so much. We don't take the time to really look at what's being produced, like all the work that goes into a YouTube video that's 6 seconds long that could have taken that creator a week or a month to do. And yeah, I feel like that's like another thing is there's a lot of work that goes into stuff that we online just take for granted because we're like, oh, that was cool. Next thing, you know?
And even for me, like, I've reached out because I'm a singer and I've tried to get like a talent agent for the longest time. And that's very difficult.
Yeah.
That's extremely hard, especially since most talent agents don't want just like cold pitches, but like what other way
Yes.
am I going to connect with you? Like, obviously you talk and stuff, but then at some point that's going to come up. Sometimes people will say that they do one thing and then they get back to you and say, oh, this is great, not the right time.
Yeah.
And that's really a huge bummer, but it's happened so often to me, like especially recently with me trying to branch out and find an agent. It's difficult because there are so many people who want to be in that space and
Yeah.
want to be represented, and the person that is taking those people in and representing them, they have to be very selective. It's nothing against you as a person. It doesn't mean that your talent isn't good enough. It just might not be the right moment, or it may not be the right person. And it's all a lesson in hearing no and being okay with that, or seeing something not work out the way you want it to and being okay with that. Whereas looping back to people being on the internet, we don't really see that.
Yeah.
We don't see people getting 1,000 no's versus the one yes that they got.
Yeah, absolutely. We always just see the success and never the rejection that people go through.
I can guarantee you people who are huge now have also dealt with a lot of rejection. They're not just born a star and then everything goes their way from
Yeah.
day one. That's not how it works. So I try to humble myself by thinking that way too, because sometimes when I get really bummed out or I see like successful people online, I'm like, oh, I'm not trying hard enough. But that's not necessarily true. That just means that it's not the right place or it's not the right time. And everybody's life journey is different.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the biggest thing that we've talked about, obviously, in this episode is surrounding a lot about identity
Yeah.
online.
Mhm.
And because I feel like that's the one of the biggest things that happens on the internet is your identity, how you present yourself to the world, what you want, who you
Absolutely.
idolize, jobs. I remember back in the old day when we had to go to the store and do a paper application. Back in the old days when you had to go and ask if they were hiring.
Yeah.
Like you
Oh,
couldn't
I
just
will
look it up.
say, I do have something to say that's
Yeah.
interesting because you bring up jobs. I do find it interesting that, especially because I don't have a Twitter, just because I don't really like it, never liked it. But I find it really interesting that certain certain jobs that are hiring people will look at your Twitter or your Facebook to see what you post. If it's like raunchy language or even just like what you did today. Like if you were texting or tweeting or something on while you were on shift. And I'm like, that's insane to me that we live in a society where you can't be yourself
Yeah.
online without it hurting your job.
Yeah.
Because I'm Tumblr born and bred. My only social media choice is Tumblr. And obviously, it has a way stronger anonymity than Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. It's not attached to your name or your phone number or anything like that. You just need an email for a Tumblr. So no one from my job can see me on Tumblr cursing or calling for representation in the government and be like, ah, he's fired. So it's just so interesting how social media has this huge impact on who you are as a person when before that it was like no one knew you had an opinion. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And now it's like we're in the age now where it's like you can have opinion, but your opinion is wrong, and so I'm going to be upset with you about it.
Exactly. Yeah. It could be an opinion over mint chocolate chip ice cream, and now you're getting doxxed or
Right.
swatted or something like that. And it's insane that people find these hills to die on when they're like molehills and
Yeah.
it's not that deep. It's a crater, my dog. It's not even
And it's like you're arguing with people that you don't know, who you've never met, who you have no idea what this person has been through. You have no idea anything, really. And
yeah.
it's just one of those things where, I don't know if I'm aging myself by being like, I almost miss the days when it was like, mind your business.
Yeah.
Obviously, if someone's doing something really bad, then having them held accountable for it, that makes sense. But
Mm.
that, though, it's like really the people in their lives are like their core people that are around them every day. Shouldn't they be responsible for doing that?
Yeah, exactly.
Or the actual people like in law enforcement or something like that, where, somebody that's doing something wrong needs to be handled by the people
Who knows the
actively
law?
who are actively there. And we did a whole thing on cancel culture, which I have thoughts about, but it worries me for the state of our community and our society that everybody is so willing to villainize and gang up on other people without
Hmm.
knowing both sides, without having the full story, without really knowing what
Yeah.
goes on in somebody's life. And it's not necessarily an excuse, like if they do something bad, they do something bad.
Yeah.
Then when it comes to cancel culture on the internet, especially, that can affect a job, that can affect that person's life, that can really harm them. And
Mhm.
people doing it don't care. And it's sad. And it shows a lack of empathy. It shows a lack of respect for yourself, honestly.
Yeah. No,
That
absolutely.
if you're so miserable in your own life that you have to try to tear somebody else down, just
Mhm.
make yourself feel better, you need to do something about that. There needs to be some soul searching. There needs to be some therapy. There needs to be something going on.
Yeah.
And then the internet, though, is a bunch of like this. I've seen so many YouTubers, especially like really big YouTubers. When you get that big, it's hard to deal with because you have so many eyes on you already.
Yes.
And I can only imagine how celebrities feel. Like I've said a million times before, people worship celebrities. I'm like, these are just people.
Yeah.
They're literally, I bet you anything, Ariana Grande goes home, takes a mad shit, and then goes to sleep.
No, for real.
And she probably sings while she does it, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It's, they're not these gods and goddesses and deities walking among us. Like these are people who have a different job than we do, that they just happen to get paid a lot for that job.
Yeah.
But they still have a right to privacy. They still have a right to basic human rights where they don't need to worry about constantly being scrutinized for their looks or their
Mhm.
way, or how much somebody's making on a movie too is like crazy to me, because that should be between like the person and the person paying them.
Yeah.
I feel, and maybe I'm wrong with that. I don't know if that's necessarily supposed to be public knowledge, but I feel like everything now is so publicized and there's less privacy just for people, so they feel exposed and they feel like the world is watching them. They can't just do their jobs and do what they love anymore without worrying about group A over here hating them,
Yes.
wanting to dox them or wanting to hurt them or doing whatever. And it's not just necessarily celebrities, it's in every facet of life.
Yeah.
And the internet gives that pathway to just say whatever you want behind the screen, no matter how mean or nasty it is. But if you were faced with that person in person, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to say those things to them.
Yeah. And it just also breeds like this sense of like false righteousness
Yeah.
almost, where
Mm-hmm.
it's like purity culture where I'm right, you're wrong, you're always going to be wrong. I don't care about your intentions. I don't care if it was an honest mistake. You did
Yeah.
something wrong. And it can be as small as someone tripping over a dog, be like, oh, you kicked that dog, dude. You totally kicked
Oh,
that dog. It's
yeah.
like, no, I tripped up. No. And they won't listen to you no matter what you say because they have already decided that you kicked that dog. And because of the way the internet is so rapid, now everyone will think or know that you are a dog kicker,
It's
and
crazy.
now you can't suddenly you can't work at a McDonald's because it's like, oh, you're a dog kicker, dude, you can't be in here. And it's, I didn't kick the dog. I
Right.
made us. And also just like the virality of the internet is also incredibly interesting in a bad
Right.
way, because it's like the post that calls you a dog kicker will always be more engaged than the post you make saying I tripped over a dog. So now, because even if you clear everything up, if your post doesn't get as much engagement as the original, you're now a dog kicker. Sorry, in the
Right?
court of public opinion, you have kicked a dog. So it's almost like at this point, why even be on the internet saying an
Right.
opinion, doing anything if you're, especially with someone like me who has like massive anxiety. I am almost afraid I was afraid, I'm not as afraid right now, to share my public opinion on things
Yeah.
because it can be twisted around, or I
Yep.
could lose my job, or I could lose opportunities just because I'm saying anything. It could literally just be like, you know what? I think that character's actually straight. Be like, no, tie him up to the branch post,
Yeah.
like set him on fire. And it's the fact that people have that fear at all to say anything on the internet is insane and very frightening because it's okay, so now I can't say anything ever. I can never have an opinion. I can never be public with who I am because of how people may react to me. That because that's how anxiety works. It's, oh, this could happen, so you shouldn't do it.
And it's even like when people apologize for things that
Hmm.
they've been doing, like you're apologizing to a bunch of people that probably won't even accept your apology anyway.
Yeah.
And they've already decided that you're a horrible human being. So,
Yes.
one of the biggest things that I've learned in my failures and my attempts, like when my business went down, like one of my things is that I was working so much
Mhm.
that I barely had time. And not even that I barely had time. I was like on my phone and on my computer constantly because I was always worried that something was going to go tits up. And at one point, my wife was like, are you going to be not working tonight so we can spend time together?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it was in that moment where I really realized that how easily, not even necessarily if you have a business or not, but how
Mhm.
easily you can be sucked into the internet with people that don't even know you.
Yeah.
Like, my wife is somebody I married who's like, I've been with for onward 6 years. This is my ride or die. Her opinion of me matters to me more than random people on the internet who are going to say whatever they're going to say. It
Yeah.
just it doesn't make sense to me how toxic and nasty people can be over the internet because they can hide and they can pretend to be like the savior or the white knight on the horse blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Just go outside. Go outside. Go have actual conversations with people. And if you don't like somebody, ignore them maybe. Just it's not your problem. It's the person's problem that's around that person every day. And like
Yes.
that person has to deal with them. That's and I've seen this with tons of people, not just my own experience, but tons of people. And people don't even want to be on the internet anymore. There's no enjoyment on the internet anymore because they're afraid that people are going to take something that was done or said and a way that makes them look like a monster when it's actually there's like this like huge other half of the story that you're
Yeah.
omitting and that you have no clue what you're talking about
Yeah.
or you're just
And that,
twisting it to fit your narrative, which is
yeah.
ridiculous. Let them live their life. If they do
Hmm.
something you don't agree with, don't engage with them. Like it's that simple. It's like somebody
Yeah.
in real life too. If you have a coworker you don't like, you're not going to go out of your way to, I would hope not, spread rumors
Hmm.
about that person at work. You
Yeah.
might if you have literally no life. What do you get out of tearing people down?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that's going to weigh on your soul and your
Hmm.
energy. Even if you don't realize it now, like that's going to hurt you in the long run. It's going to really turn you into a person that you never thought you could end up being. And I would hope that you wouldn't want to be. And empathy is lost on the internet, which is so sad because we need that, especially in our society right now.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people on the internet, as soon as they encounter anything that is like mildly wrong. Not even just like it's not black and white. It's not even like a dark gray. It's like
Yeah.
a medium gray. It's like slightly a bad thing, not the best thing. And they're like, okay, person, spike now. And they feel like the need to expose people for mistakes or shortcomings that they either eventually rectify or aren't even major sins, not even major taboos. Like there are really big social taboos that should absolutely be called out on. And I'm not even going to mention it because everyone knows what they are.
Yeah.
But
The very clear ones that we can all agree on.
yes, like pouring the milk before your cereal.
Exactly.
But even if it's like a mild stuff, like God, I don't know. Damn, I totally forgot to do this thing for you that you were relying me on. That's my bad. And then that person will go around and be like, "Oh, this person's an ableist cuck." Sorry, I
Yeah.
probably can't say that. This
It's
person is an
okay. We can bleep
ableist.
it.
Okay, this person is an ableist dumb but I'm trying not to curse. I feel so awkward. I'm gonna curse. You'll bleep it anyway. This is a ableist who just doesn't cater to me and my whims, and they totally forgot about me, so therefore they don't care about me, the disabled person. And it's no, I just genuinely forgot,
Yeah.
or even if it there was if there's no malicious intent, you gotta just let
Yeah.
it go, my guy.
Let people learn from their mistakes.
Exactly. You can't just assume that everyone is a bad person just because you're not getting your way or it looks bad
Right.
on paper. If I were to say to someone straight up, "Oh, my friend didn't follow my boundaries," it
Mm.
would be like, "Oh, that's a terrible person." But if I were to add on the fact that, "Oh, yeah, my friend forgot my boundaries," because they have problem remembering things and it needs to be repeated multiple times before it gets into their
Right.
head. In that case, they're still like they're not the best person. They're forgetting boundaries, but they
Yeah.
you have to give them a little leeway because it's they're still learning, they're growing from
Yeah.
their mistakes and they have apologized or they are working on it because they're like, "Oh, they've forgotten multiple times." And it's okay, but are they learning?
Yeah.
But are they growing? And a lot of people are just like, "No, everyone is stagnant." Full
Yep.
stop. No, we are human beings. We have fleshy little brains that love to grow and develop because that's what they do. So if we're decent people, we're going to continue to grow. We're going to continue to learn. No one is perfect straight out of the womb. So just give people some grace.
And I think it's like that thing where it's that moment where people feel, I don't know if this is the right word, but they feel validated if they have an opinion that other people follow, even if it's opinion that is an even if it's an opinion that they're just following because they want something to do and they're bored and people want to bond over either loving somebody or hating somebody, or there's a
Hmm.
sense of community even when it's toxic. And it's something that I realized too, and I was like, I go through and I do a lot of self-reflection daily. Like I always look back on things that I've done and try to think, what could I've done better? Like, how do I see myself now versus how I was acting then? And
Yep.
there are so many things that I did wrong in my life. Oh my God. And the way that I can look at that and take accountability for it, that's what helps me grow and help me learn how to approach the situations later on in life,
Yeah.
not continuously make those mistakes. But a lot of people feel that on both ends, a lot of people feel like they make one mistake, they're damned, like they're a bad person
Yes.
forever. They shouldn't even try anymore. Like we had a friend that was like that, who they were very pessimistic about life, and because things had happened to them, it was the world owes me something. The
Hmm.
world doesn't owe you anything. The world doesn't owe anybody anything. Like you are dealt a hand of cards in your life and you deal with it.
Yes.
And if people don't like you, go about your day. You don't need to express that you don't like somebody. There's
Yeah.
no point in doing that. You're wasting your time and making yourself look hateful. And there's so much hate in the world already. that it makes no sense to put more hateful energy into the world. Like, it makes more sense to be like, oh, I don't like you. I'm not going to give you my attention. I'm not going to give you my energy. There you go. That's the best thing you can do. Family, friends, whatever. If there's somebody that you genuinely don't get along with and don't like, walk away.
Yeah.
It's like typical, it's what we learn in grade school. Don't like somebody, you're not going to walk up and punch them in the face.
No.
You're going to walk away and say, I don't want to be friends with you. Okay.
Yeah.
Kids can do that, yet us as adults, we still struggle doing that because we feel like we're not being, if we're not in the right, then something is missing within us that we need to fill.
Yeah.
And that's a sad life to live that
Mm.
I've noticed, not even just in the internet, in human services too. You see this constantly. People that they're going through some horrible things and then they take it out on you. And you're like, I'm sorry that there's been so many times where I've had a mother who has gone through so much and she's about to lose everything and she's just screaming at me over the phone. And I'm trying to be as calm as possible, but I'm also sad because I can hear how upset she is. It's not at me though. Like,
No.
I didn't do anything. And so I'm like, I'm really sorry that you're going through this. I'm going to do the best that I can to help. And then when you speak kindly to others, especially when they're heightened, most people will come down from that and be like, no, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have freaked out on you. It's not your fault. Take a beat, take a breath. Let's figure it out. Let's work together on this. Let's game plan. What can we
Yep.
do to move forward? But because of the internet and because of the access to so many things that are negative, that are
Hmm.
broadcasted on the internet, we're losing that ability to communicate with one another
Yep.
and have that empathy. Like, communication and empathy are so important for society, but we're losing it.
Yep.
And a lot of it's because of the internet, unfortunately.
Yeah. I agree with that. And I also want to say it's just like you if you don't like somebody, you have every right to never talk to them again. The internet is a big place. You're not
Mhm.
going to lose out on anything if you block a person or just decide to avoid a section of the internet entirely. Like, I am a huge advocate for blocking people without really needing a reason to. Like, they
Yeah,
can just be, I can just not like their content. I can just be like,
yeah,
you know what? You have really cold takes on this thing I like. So I'm just gonna
not
block you.
engage.
Like, it's nothing against the person
Yeah,
personally. I just don't want to see it. And I should be
right.
allowed to be like, I don't want to see this. And I feel like a lot of people want to have an excuse to hate somebody or to
Yeah,
not like somebody. So they will twist any truth or take any molehill they find to make it this huge mountain so that way they are allowed to not like a person.
yeah.
And it's
Attention.
you're allowed to just say, I don't like this person. I don't want to
Yeah,
work with them. I don't want to talk to them. And I feel like that just makes you the bigger person if you're just like, hey, we don't get along. It was nice talking to you. If I did talk to you, block. Like, it's not that hard to just remove yourself from the equation entirely if you feel like you don't like a person. Like, you don't have
yeah.
to come up with a reason. You don't have to talk shit to your friends in order to convince yourself there's a reason to not like somebody. You can just not like somebody.
Like,
That's
you should
it.
feel validated within yourself, knowing that you will have friends and you will have a community around you that love you and care
Hmm.
about you for you and your own values and what you offer the world,
Yep.
not because of you creating a negative space. I don't
Hmm.
think that those friendships will last. I don't think that those relationships are healthy.
No.
And it's something that people may need to go through life and learn things. Life may have to smack them upside the head a couple times. Like, that's happened to me. Karma has hit me a couple times. I know she don't she don't play favorites. I already know that. I've learned. But it's sometimes people act out of character because they think it's going to get them attention. They think it's going to get them some kind of, it's going to fill a void in them that they don't necessarily know that they have.
Yeah.
And that is where I always suggest for people to meditate. I love meditation. It helps so much. People who are religious turning to their religion, people that are spiritual turning inward to your spirituality, finding something that you can do within yourself, that spending time with yourself and reflecting and saying, does this really serve me in a
Hmm.
positive way? Am I putting out more good into the world than bad? And if what I'm doing, is it benefit me, or is it just because I want something to do or I'm upset about a situation? It's the people that I feel like scream on the internet.
Yep.
It's, you need to work on being happier with yourself and not needing validation from other people. And that, I say that because I have a really hard time with that. I I have struggled for years needing validation from other people just because of my mental health journey, my weight loss journey.
Mm.
I'm still struggling with it. I still feel like if somebody says something nice to me, I still don't believe it sometimes. And I'm like, ah,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, you're funny. And then my wife will look at me and be like, stop it. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. Or people that comment on my videos, like, that you're singing his ass. And I'm like, thank you for the view. And thank you for the view. I appreciate your opinion and I send you love and light because I'm not going to fight with you over my voice. If you don't like my voice, don't watch my videos.
It's really not that hard
It's
to
really
just,
not that hard. Like you have to comment something to try to get a rise out of me. You're not going to get a rise out of me. I'm just going to
yeah.
say I appreciate your opinion because I do appreciate your opinion, especially if it's constructive. If people say anything like, "Oh, I didn't like this part of the song." Sometimes I'm like, "Okay, that's good for me to note in the future if it's constructive." Like my vocal coach rips me apart when I send them takes of music. Like my old vocal coach would have me do a song like 19 times over and over again if I got one note wrong. And I was like, girl, just let me post the song. And she was like, no. God. So I'm used to receiving that. But if it's just being hateful and mean for no reason,
Yeah.
what did you get out of this? Honestly, I'm not going to give you what you want, which is a reaction. I'm not going to do
Yeah.
that because it's not worth my time.
It's
And
not.
yeah, I've done too much work on myself to feed into this energy. I
Yeah.
would rather send you good vibes when you've sent me bad vibes because I'm going to cancel out what you're doing by sending you positive vibes because whatever I put out into the world is going to come back to me at some point.
Yep.
So say whatever you want. I'm not going to sit here and argue with you over the internet. I'm just not. So I think people really need to work on self reflection. They need to work on being with yourself. I know that sometimes that's really uncomfortable, but
Hmm.
I'm very spiritual. I try really hard to either meditate every day or to spend like a mindful moment with myself and just think about what's currently going on. Like tomorrow I have to drive 2 hours and I'm like inner part of me is, oh, I don't want to go. Oh, it just like catastrophizing and spiraling.
Yep.
But then you have to take those moments and stop yourself and think, do I have a reason not to go?
Yeah.
Am I just saying this because the easier option would be easier and I'd be happier. But what am I going to miss out on? What is me not doing this? What's going to happen? Like, I'm going to need to make it up sometime. What if me making up the time that I lost not going is worse than if I had just gone?
Yeah.
Like, you don't know. And so it really comes down to like me saying, if I'm sick, that's different. But if I'm not, you just need to go get it. You did it. Give yourself some ice cream when you get home, something. Be kinder to yourself and be kinder to others. A lot of celebrities say that, and I feel like we don't take that seriously.
We don't know.
That's what's going to make the world a better place eventually is if people learn You don't have to like each other. You don't have to agree with each other,
Yep.
but it doesn't need to be broadcasted on the internet either.
No.
Just be with the people that you're around every day that care about you as a person, who know you inside and out, your family, your friends, your partners. Those are the people that you really need to prove who you are to, because those are the
Yeah.
people that are your support group, and those are the people that are always going to be there for you. So the internet is a place where people can share interests and have fun, but it's also a place where it's caused a lot of harm, probably more harm than good in a lot of aspects.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And I feel like people should also just learn to stay in their lane
Yeah.
and to just stop being assholes.
Yeah.
Stop being jerks. Stop being little shits.
Do something productive with your
Do
life.
something productive. Do something that you really love doing. It doesn't matter if it's cringe, doesn't matter if no one gets to see it. Just create something that you're so proud of that you can look back on years later and be like, yeah, yeah, no, I really went off on this one. I really
Yeah,
like this one.
absolutely. As we wrap up, as we have a few minutes left, what are your final thoughts, Gabe, on today's podcast session?
I would say my final thoughts are be nice to people on the internet. You don't know what people are going through. Always be yourself on the internet in a personality way, not in a share me your address kind of way.
Yeah, don't be
Um,
creepy.
don't share photos of yourself online.
No.
That is literally how you get found out and tracked. But anyway, and also just do stuff passionately. Do things that you like because you like it. And don't worry about the numbers. Don't worry about the traction. Don't worry about the eyes that get to see your work because someone will
Yeah.
see your work because it's the internet and people will see it in a both positive and negative way. People will see it. So just, yeah, do what you want, be great, and don't be little shits.
In the words of Bambi, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all.
Correct.
Golden rule. Unless you're with your partner and you're joking around and bantering, that's fine. Don't go out of your way to hurt people. Go out of your way to
Hmm.
help people. Go out of your way to uplift others. And
Yep.
if you don't like that person, just don't engage. It's that simple. Just don't engage.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, eventually you're going to look back on it and be like, oh man, like, why did I do that? Let people learn their own life lessons. Karma is, she's a beast and she will get them. Like, she don't skip anybody. And that's what karma's for, to teach you life lessons. My last thoughts are there's no reason to put in more negativity in the world than there already is, when we
Hmm.
should come together as people, different opinions and all, and just try to be there for one another, because we're so distanced and we're so divided that it's just creating discourse and chaos and deteriorating our society one day at a time. In order to make the world an actual better place, people need to go back to a place of communication and empathy and kindness. And that's just how it needs to be. Like, there's no other way. You can have different opinions, but that doesn't mean you have to be cruel to one another. With those thoughts being said, thank you guys for listening. And I know I don't post too often, but that's because I prioritize my real life. I do try to put out covers as often as I can make them, and podcasts as often as we can do them. They may not be regular, but they'll come out when they come out. And I suggest that you guys also find something lovely to do in your real life that you are passionate about. And we'll see you next time. Alrighty. Say bye,
Bye, Gabe.
Gabe. Bye, guys.